I'm David Walton, and this is Diversity Dialogues. Hello, my name is David Walton, and I am the director of Western Carolina University's Global Black Studies program, as well as an assistant professor of history. I would like to welcome you to another edition of our Diversity Dialogues podcast, produced by the University Communications and Marketing Office in partnership with the Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity Programs. We hope you enjoy the show. Greetings and welcome. Today we'll be joined by Dr. Ricardo Nazario Colon, our Chief Diversity Officer at Western Carolina University, Andrea Cibu Cabillo, a sophomore at Western Carolina University, and Stephanie Gordillo Rivas, a junior at Western Carolina University. And today we'll be exploring the experience of Latinx, Hispanic, Chicano students here at Western Carolina University. It's always a pleasure to talk to students, and it is always a pleasure to give them a platform to express themselves. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, Ricardo. I first want to state that according to our 2021 student body profile at Western Carolina University, using the language that our university uses, we have Hispanics of any race, 781 undergraduates, 110 graduate students, with a total of 891 students, making up 7.5% of our student population. According to Jackson County, we have a total of 6.13%, and they aggregated, and it's split almost down the middle of Hispanic non-white and Hispanic white. And in Silva, our closest neighboring city to the university, we have a total Hispanic population percentage of 10.1%, aggregated with Hispanic white at 2.19%, Hispanic non-white at 7.94%. And in Cullowhee proper, where Western Carolina is located, we have a percentage of Hispanic residents, permanent residents, not including students, of 10.24%. I think it's important that we contextualize the population, the demographics, because it will help inform some of our questions and make some of our questions make more sense. So once again, welcome, ladies, and I hope you enjoy our conversation today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Indeed. So I first want to open up with, what made you all choose Western Carolina University as your school of undergraduate studies?
I can go first. So I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. So the closest school to me was the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And one of the biggest things that kind of brought me to Western was when I came to tour here, I felt like it was just visibly more diverse than any other school I've ever been to. And that's something I never really had growing up. I went to a predominantly white high school. I lived in a predominantly white town. Aside from like my family, my parents' friends, I never got to like interact with like any other Latinx individuals. So that's one of the big things that brought me to Western was like I could see other people that looked like me and other people that were like in the positions that I would want to be in one day.
Well, I'm an international student here at Western. I'm from Venezuela. I grew up my whole life there. And when I was 16, I moved to Ecuador. And then in Ecuador, I found the opportunity to do an exchange year here in the U.S., and that took me to Reidsville, North Carolina. There is a little tiny town, and there I learned about Western. My host sister, she's in love with Western. She wanted to come here her whole life. And when I learned there is a campus where you can walk a lot, like if you don't have a car, that's my situation, you can get to classes. There's not going to be an impediment for you to get to classes. And it's also, I grew up in a very mountainy area too, and there's a lot of hikes and a lot of to do, and that's something that Western kind of brought with me as well. And then slowly I found out about like Lasso and other communities that make me feel kind of like home here at Western. So yeah.
Awesome. Speaking of communities, what are some of the elements of the Latinx student community here at Western Carolina?
One of the big things is I'm really involved in like the leadership community here at Western and getting just to meet other Latinx individuals that are a part of that. I've just kind of learned how we're all willing to kind of just share our culture, share our experiences, and like just practice authentic leadership because there are so many students that come here for the very first time and they've never experienced something like this and they're lost. And just the fact that we've learned how to feel so comfortable sharing like our experiences and what brought us here, and that's kind of how we've all grown as leaders, and then just sharing that to new students, it's just something amazing about the community here.
So I feel like what made me feel like I have a big community of Latinos here at the different organizations and different events that are happening through the semester. LASO, of course, me one of them. MCP is another one. We have a sorority as well. There's a Latino sorority. They are LPC. And Latinas Promoviendo la Comunidad. I don't really know the whole name, but it's a long name and they're only allowed to be named like that. So I'm not sure if I can say LPC. But I know that with LASO, it helped me notice that there is more Latinos than I thought, which my first semester here, I didn't know anybody, and all the people that I was close to, they were from here with the culture of the U.S., and then I slowly getting to know that there is more people that have similar cultures to me. Latin America is very big, so we have a bunch of different cultures, and get to know all these cultures through the different organizations that we have, as well as seeing like similarities that there is between them is amazing. It's kind of like magic. You realize, oh, they have the same food that I do, but they make it different. Or they dance kind of the same songs that we do, but it has a different name and it has, I don't know, you move the hip one more time. So I found that very amazing. And also learning more about all the different cultures there is in Latin America is very amazing.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned some organizations, acronyms. What are the full names for our listeners and potential students?
So LASO is Latinx Appreciation and Student Organization. It's a Latin-based but not exclusive organization, so everybody's more than welcome to join, whether you have some knowledge of the Hispanic culture or the Latino culture, or you don't and you just want to learn and go see what it is. MCP is Mujeres con un Propósito, is a club here in Western that is Women with Purpose will be the translation. So it's a group of women that get together and they talk about how to become more empowerment or how it is to be a Latina woman in today's days, in past days, how it is to like support group as well. I see it that way as well, because it's like if I need some help from another woman that has passed the same that I have passed, I can go there and talk with them. Or if I need help I'm a STEM major, but I'm also an education major. So there is always more help that you can get. And MCP, they have a bunch of intelligent women there in there, and they're very great at tutoring. I'm not sure if they do tutoring at Western, but I know if you go, like yesterday, they had an MCP meeting, educational meeting. So you go there and do your homework. And I had a girl help me with my chemistry homework. That she's not a tutor, but she knows about it, so she was explaining me about it. And then LPC is Latinas Promoviendo la Comunidad, and I can't remember the rest. It's a very long name. But they are the only sororities in Western Carolina. They don't really fall under an umbrella because we don't have a multicultural umbrella in the like Greek community, sorority communities, all that. So they are by themselves. And they're the only Latino sorority in campus.
Do they have a Latino fraternity here?
Not yet. I got informed that there might be one coming here to Western, which I got very excited for. I'm not sure about their name. It's very mysterious until they're 100% sure here, I'm guessing. But yes.
And I just wanted to add that all student organizations are open regardless of your background. So if you're not a Latina, you can still, apply for membership in this particular sorority. The same thing with the other sororities and fraternities on campus.
And there is also ICA, there is Intercultural Affairs, that they have all all cultures. If you just want something more broadly, you can go there, and it's amazing. If you don't have anything to do during your day, you can go to the ICA office, and there's normally going to be people there that you can talk with or ask for help for X, Y. Like, they're very helpful since they're normally, I think they're open every day. Some days they close at 5 and some days they close at 7. But they also have the gallery, which I love too, because when you get to go to the gallery, there's different topics depending of what is happening this month and what is not. So you get to learn a lot. And it's just very cool people to just hang out with. Like, if you just go sit down, do your homework, have more cultures to learn about, it's very cool.
Awesome. That leads me to my next question. You guys kind of already hinted at aspects of it. How have you been able to stay connected to and express your cultural identities here at Western Carolina?
So for me, I love cooking. I grew up watching my mom cook. I remember her basically going, "Venga, te vas a venir a aprender a cocinar," and like just make me stand there with her in the kitchen and like just watch her cook. So I never got the chance to make like cultural foods at home, mainly because my mom makes pupusas 10 times better than I ever will. But when I came here to Western, something that would kind of just help me remind of home is just sharing the foods that I would make at home. So there have been days where I've gotten together with my friends at like their dorm rooms and like we just made tacos for everybody. I made like handmade tortillas for everybody. I've made pupusas for everybody. Like, I've shared things from my culture in a way that I find really meaningful because I love cooking, and just kind of sharing that with people and just seeing like them go, "Oh my gosh, I've never experienced these flavors before. This is so good," just makes me really, really happy.
I would say that at the start, it was very difficult. My first semester, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now of all the support that you can get as a Latino person here. So my first semester, I was homesick. I couldn't see my culture anywhere where I will see. So it was very difficult. But once I clicked in my second semester and I learned about all this support and other cultures that you can learn, it made me very excited. It made my year go way better. I had places where I could go and I speak Spanish that is like very meaningful to me because I spent my whole day speaking in English. And even though it's different in Spanish, it's also curious to see it, like how one word might mean another thing in another country, and it gets to be funny. And definitely just connecting, finding a group to click with that you can share your culture and that they can share their culture to you. I feel like that helped me a lot here at Western to feel a little bit more closer to home. And all the different events that are happening constantly also made me feel close to home. Being able to go to a certain area of Western and listen to reggaeton just in the background, that made me very excited as well. So I think it takes a little bit. Once you find it, you can definitely feel closer to home, closer to your culture. And I don't know, it's a very good experience too.
Awesome. So tell us about your experiences being a student leader and a member of the Latinx community.
For me, like being the student body president, there's like a lot of imposter syndrome there, mainly because, at least for me, I never grew up seeing people take on like these very public positions, these almost like political positions too. And my experience has definitely been a lot of like just kind of getting over the consistent like anxiousness, nervousness, and like just fear that I'm not going to say or do the right things by my community, but also like just trying to figure out how do I support like this very diverse student body while also like making sure that I'm supporting like the people within the same community as I am. And that's something that I think is kind of difficult to like express to the student body of like, yeah, maybe we're doing events or we're like throwing resources out there targeting like one specific community or demographic, but that doesn't mean that we're not open to like helping all communities and all demographics. It just takes time. And the other aspect of it too is that like people forget that it's intersectional too. Like, for example, when SGA, we hosted Qualcomm this past year, I got like a really long email saying, well, why are you only supporting the queer community but not any other community? And I think people forget, like, you can be Latinx and queer. You can be, Afro-Latino. You can, like, so many of these things are intersectional, and you don't even need to be a part of that community to, like, find those resources that could apply to you. So it's just really difficult kind of walking, like, a tightrope of, like, making sure that you're doing right by everyone, but you're also helping, like, the people that look like you and, like, experience the same thing you have, because that.
Well, I think that for me, Ricardo has helped me a lot. Being the last president, the first thing that came to my mind was, wow, I'm gonna need to be doing all this stuff, and I thought that, like, I'm gonna need to be doing it by myself, kind of. But when it's not like that, you have a whole executive board there to help you, to give you support, and I'm grateful that my executive board they're amazing. Thank you, everybody. But it's a lot of, that you have to. Okay, so in case of LASO, we have Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Venezuelans, Colombians, and from what I saw, Latin America is all different cultures. So trying to show a little bit of each culture in events for me is very important. And I think it can get to be complicated as well, trying to get everybody together. And now, thankfully, the stuff are getting slowly back to normal, because it's not completely. Is easier. That's definitely true. Like, during the pandemic, it was very difficult to bring out members, to get your exec board to do everything that you have to do to be able to approve certain events because of COVID. So it has definitely been a trip, like, trying to get everything together, trying to go in the same, like, in a good path to get everybody to know your organization or your community. But I feel like the most important part is knowing that you have help. You're not by yourself. You have your advisors, you have your executive board, even your members. They have ideas. They want to help. They want to see this. They want to see that. So just making sure that you're always with people around you that are there to help you, and making sure that you're also giving the right guidance, because some of your executive board, I don't know, they might not know what they need to do, and then giving them the right guidance with the right words to express themselves or to do certain job that they have to do.
Awesome. Well, don't feel bad, because even us senior people face some of those very same challenges. Trust me, we do. So you're doing a great job, How has, if it has, recent national and regional politics affected you all's experiences here at the university and in the region?
Politics are always scary, especially when you're in, like, a very visible and public role. There's, like, things that I believe in that maybe the majority of people in this region don't. And I know that, like, I always find myself being, like, very careful of how, like, I phrase and how, like, I frame my thoughts, like, just the general public. Something that's just, like, wonderful about Western North Carolina is that people are, like, just very passionate, and they're passionate about their beliefs. But sometimes it's just really difficult, like, to walk this, like, public figure line of neutrality, but also make sure that you're, like, staying true to yourself and, like, your ideals and what you want to get accomplished. So that's, like, the biggest impact that politics have had on me since coming to WNC. It's just, like, making sure that you're listening to all these different opinions and you're gathering from them, but also making sure that you're, like, not saying things that would potentially, like, heavily offend people or, like, get people trying to point out all the wrong that you do and stuff like that.
Well, I feel like for me it was very difficult at the start, just because I grew up in a different country. So coming here and trying to learn everything, the different perspectives of all the population here at Western, and what is right, what is wrong, this is what I think, this is what the other person thinks. So it has definitely been complicated, but I have had guidance as well. And what she was saying, like, trying to say, you have your beliefs and can't enforce them on anybody, and you have to be neutral about how you express these, and making sure that you understand that everybody has freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want. You can have the reasoning that you have, and that's okay. But I also have freedom of speech, so I'm also gonna use it. And just making sure that everything is just neutral, basically, that you're not offending anybody, but it's still making sure that they know what you believe, and that you are not like causing any more problems or trying to extend it in a bigger level. And also, I feel like most of it comes into education as well. So, like, if somebody doesn't agree with the same political visions that I have, I tend to explain why do I believe this way, and I want you to explain me also why do you believe that way. So trying to keep it neutral and everybody in peace is difficult sometimes, but it's necessary. So yeah.
Awesome. What would make you all's experience here at Western Carolina better? Or what can the university and our faculty and staff do to help improve your experience?
So for me, like, I enjoy my experience at WCU, but I'm also like in a position that like I get to see and understand what goes on internally in the university. So like complaints that other students may have, I kind of like know the answers to, and I know like why things are that way. And the difficult thing is like just trying to just educate students and be transparent with students about like the issues that go on, because like, for example, people can talk about like dining and like, why is dining like this? And I know, I'm like, well, we have issues with staffing, we have issues with getting food here, and sometimes like all people hear is Western can't do it, so they won't do it. So so I think something that could make just like a general experience is just kind of being a little bit more transparent about that, because I think sometimes when people kind of see how it looks like internally, they tend to understand, because it doesn't seem like the university is like trying to hide behind something. But another thing too that I always think, it's like it's always needed everywhere, but like just kind of expanding more on like our cultural activities and our cultural education is always needed. I've like encountered this issue not just like growing up, but sometimes like here, where like I talk about my heritage and then people are like, oh, is that something from like a Mexican thing? I'm like, no, I'm from Salvador, I'm from Guatemala. It's like, it's not the same. It's so much broader than that. And sometimes this is also like a quote unquote like failure of the school, like K-12 school system, where they only educate about like one or two countries and just never expand upon the rest. So I think that's something we can also do, because at the end of the day, it's just going to make more people feel welcome and more people feel seen here.
I'm going to follow up with her. I will definitely love to have more cultural exposure in Western, for people to know that Latin America is huge, and for me to just see more cultures than like that's a stereotype. I feel like I have been asked if I'm Mexican since I got here. I'm like, no, I'm Venezuelan. They're like, oh, cool. What part of Mexico is that? And I'm like, and no, South America, North America, two different, yeah. So definitely more exposure. I would love to see that. And I know that it's probably not possible, but a Caribbean restaurant would be nice at Western. Just having some food that you can, there's different type of Latin American food, and you can go to and, I don't know, get tostones or get something to eat. You know, that would be nice. And just more activities like we have a bunch of Hispanic activities during Hispanic Heritage Month. But I'm here not just for a month. I'm here for 4 years or more, depending if you're doing grad school. So it would be definitely nice to have it all year round and not just for 1 month. It's just to be able to live your culture no matter what day of the day it is. So that will definitely be very nice.
You know, I appreciate, and Stephanie, you brought this up, the intersectionality of who we are as a people, but the intersectionality of our cultures and everything that connects to it. And I think that is something that people here in the United States sometimes forget, that they have themselves multiple identities, right? And when we talk about intersectionality, we're talking about being a parent, being a student, being an employee, and being a student. All these different things that intersect our daily lives, and we never focus on that kind of conversation. And I think that you brought it up very well today, in the context of being a Latin American student here at the university, of being of Latin American heritage, that we have all these different identities that we draw upon, and it makes our experience here richer at the university. And I see it in the way you talk about it, in your energy and the smiles when you talk about these things, and how meaningful it is to you, but also how great it is to have the things that we do have here at the university that make those things available to you. And I would encourage other people to explore their own intersectionalities and see how those can, come into contact with the Latin American intersectionality.
Indeed, indeed. And unfortunately, part of those ignorant statements and perspectives is a failure of many of our K through 12 schools on just simple geography, to be quite honest. And then probably a little bit of willful ignorance as well. I just recall many instances when I lived in southern Florida, in Dade County, Florida, Homestead in particular, south of Miami. And I've seen people get into fistfights because they called a Cuban man a Mexican, or they called a Puerto Rican man a Cuban, or et cetera, and just the willful ignorance that people had. Some people don't even realize that, for good or worse, that Puerto Rico is part of the United States of America, right? It's just, things that we can do better as a society. Speaking of education, though, and educational opportunities here at Western Carolina, have you all been exposed to our Latinx studies or global Black studies?
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot of different things about like those classes, those organizations. I am also an anthropology major, so that's something I also like study a lot. I personally just really like focus on like ancient Latin American civilizations, and like not just like educating myself on that because that is part of my heritage, but also like just educating others, because kind of going back to like that ignorance and like failure in K through 12. Like I always grew up being taught like about the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incans, like 2 out of the 3 of those were all in Mexico. And then like I do my own research, and like I learned so much about it, not just because I grew up with my dad saying like, oh yeah, my pueblito is like 30 minutes away from this Mayan temple and stuff like that, but also just kind of saying at one point, like the geography we see now wasn't how it was way back then. And there's so much more to history than just like those 3 major civilizations. Like I've studied things from like the Pil people when I went to El Salvador over this summer, and like learned about how like they moved on to Mayan territory, Mayan land, after Mayans moved up a little bit further up in Mexico. And then you have like all these Amazonian tribes that have like moved around, and like just the different variances with like just Incan civilizations of like how they, like what part of the mountains, Andes Mountains they were on and stuff like that. So I really do enjoy like our educational programs here at Western, because like the professors are definitely passionate about what they do and what they teach, and they just really encourage you to like just expand and open your mind more.
I found it curious that you say that, because I learned yesterday that in the US you learn that you have 7 continents. I learned my whole life that we have 6 continents, so I found that very funny. Then I learned some people believe there's 5, some people believe there's 13 continents. So I found that very interesting. It was like, wow. So even the continents are different taught everywhere. But today we actually have an event with Global Black Studies, with LASA and Global Black Studies. So I have been in contact with Asha there. She's the president of Global Black Studies, and she's a wonderful person. If you ever get to meet her, it's amazing.
I'm her advisor.
Yeah, she's a wonderful person.
Yes.
And today we're educating about reggae and reggaeton and how everything how reggaeton came to life, how gave reggaeton life. But our ex-president, and now she's part of our executive members. She's Latinx studies, and she's always talking about it, and just I didn't imagine that would be a major, and it is, and I think that's super cool too. It's like, wow, you get to learn about my culture and get a major about it, and I think that's very amazing. There's also the International Student Center, so they also have like a lot of correlation one on each other. So yeah, I don't know. It's cool to see that that's a major. I feel like that's very cool for me. In case it's wow, you get to learn about everything. And going back to Maya Inca, I'm in a Latin American class, and we're actually learning about it. And I did notice that in the U.S., when you talk about Latin American culture, it's very focused in like what happened in Mexico. When my whole life I learned about what happened in Venezuela because I lived in Venezuela. Then I moved to Ecuador, and the history is also what happened in Ecuador. And then I moved here, and it's like what happened in Mexico. So I find it very interesting how each country also changes a little bit their history classes, and learning about each one of them is pretty cool, seeing 3 different educational systems. So
Indeed. And it probably differs here based upon the professor as well. Because I know in the history department, as well as in the Global Black Studies minor, you'll get variations depending on the expertise. So you'll get a lot in some classes in the history department about Cuba and Brazil because of the strong African presence in those countries because of the transatlantic slave trade. And then you have some because of geopolitical reasons, Mexico maybe. And then when I teach some classes, El Salvador comes up because of things in the history and American interventions. Nicaragua will come up a lot in a lot of things I teach. So that might be some variation, as well. But awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys have discovered those course offerings and those opportunities. That makes me feel really happy, and I'm sure the faculty and staff in those various areas will be very pleased to hear that. Because we're always concerned, do the students really like our work? Because it's all for you guys, to be quite honest. So I'm going to move on to another question. Have you all been able to connect with local off-campus permanent Latinx communities, Silva, Cullowhee, Jackson County, or anything of that nature?
So this is one of like the first times ever that I've been able to like go to Walmart and have like full-on conversations with like moms and their kids, like trying to find something in the Walmart aisle in like Spanish. And it's something really amazing to just kind of be able to go to these different stores, to have like a panaderia over in Franklin, to have a neveria over in Franklin, and like just connect with people that have experienced just so much of the same things you have. And that's kind of something I want to do more, just kind of finding these communities and getting to like talk to these people and just kind of expand my own knowledge on my culture, because I like my only family is my mom, my dad, my brother, and then some cousins somewhere else in the United States. So that's kind of like my only exposure, which is just the family aspect of it. And I've never gotten to be exposed to like the full community of it. So that's something that's like one of my goals for like the next 2, maybe 3 years that I'm here, just to be exposed to it more and just get to like make those connections.
Indeed. Because I was shocked when I looked at the demographics and I saw those percentages. And I said, well, it makes sense because, when I go to O'Malley's to play pool, I'm playing with Latino guys and we take over the jukebox. That's our mission. It's going to be rap and reggaeton. We do not want it to turn into AC/DC. So we rush and get our dollars into the machine and we all pick. All right, you pick 5, I pick 5, you pick 5, I pick 5.
Some of us like AC/DC, by the way. Just saying.
I've heard that rumor before. And what about you, Andrea?
Well, with the start of Hispanic Heritage Month, the 15th, there was an event called Carnaval de Colores in Cashiers, and I definitely got to meet a bunch of the Latino community here in Jackson County that live here. There is different also organizations outside of Westerns that are made to help them or to just provide some support as well. One that comes to mind right now is Vecinos. So I always hear about Vecinos this, Vecinos that, Vecinos this. So I found that very amazing. And I got just to meet a bunch of people that don't go to school here, don't have any relationship with Western Carolina, and that everybody just came together, and there was different, they taught how to dance salsa, zapateo, all these different dances from different parts of Latin America, and just seeing all the people getting together, listening to Spanish. I know most people don't realize how much important language is, but just being able to be in a place that everybody's speaking your native language is amazing. It's like, it makes you want to cry in a certain way, because it's just, it brings you that feeling that you're at home. Right here, you're at home with your people, with everybody that is gonna understand what you have lived through, what it means to be a Latino in the U.S. So it was definitely very amazing just getting to know the community. I'm slowly trying to get to know them more and get to see what other organizations there is outside of campus there. They might want some more exposures of Western for the students to also know them. Like, hey, there is this organization that is actually very close where you live, and they might need volunteers for this or that. Being translator is always, mostly for like health services. There is a bunch of just looking for being translators for health services. So that was amazing to know. There is also a LEAP program that is like they're looking for teachers. You don't have to be an education major. You don't have to be a teacher. You just have to want to teach, and they're looking for people that speak Spanish, because a bunch of their students are Hispano hablantes. They speak Spanish. Sorry. It sometimes gets mixed up. But that was a very good thing. Like, I enjoyed it a lot. It was like on a 45-minute drive, and it's like a snake, so that gave me a bunch of headaches. But it was worth it. It was very worth it. And then on the way back, and you could see all the cars like playing reggaeton and just dancing, and it felt very good. It felt for a little bit, I'm like, oh, it feels like I'm in Ecuador getting back home right now, or in Venezuela getting back home. So that was very nice.
No, I think, in general, we're excited that the Latinx community is growing at WCU, and we appreciate how our student population is engaging and bringing their culture to campus and helping other students and even faculty and staff, learn something about a culture that is not native to this region. And when cultures come together, you always learn that there's an exchange of values, an exchange of things that individuals prefer or like, and out of that comes out a fusion, something new, right? So as the population grows, not only in the community but on campus, as more people are more open about the idea of their intersectional lives and how they can live among people that are different but similar. Because I think one of the things you all mentioned is how much we have things in common as human beings. So I'm excited about the future of Western Carolina University. I'm excited about the leadership in our Latinx student population. You are two exemplars of what leadership can be here at WCU. I would like to ask you, what advice would you give a high school student who's looking at colleges, right? And they stumble upon this podcast. What message would you say to them about WCU?
I would say don't be afraid of taking the opportunities that come your way, even if they seem like a little bit scary or a little bit unexpected. I know one of my biggest regrets from high school was just always staying in my niche and just always doing the same thing. And when I came to college, I kind of just had to rip off the Band-Aid and go, okay, I might fail at something, but that's okay because I'm going to learn from it. And I ended up getting like opportunities to be a part of SGA, and then getting the opportunity to run for student body president, which I was absolutely never, ever, ever expecting to do. But I ended up taking them, and now I'm here. Like, just don't be afraid of the uncertainty the world holds, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to be navigating it. And nothing is just more rewarding and like a better experience than learning how to navigate it and be successful.
I think what I would say is that, yeah, don't be afraid. Come on, just come to us and explore all these different opportunities and all these different cultures, or all these different people there. If you're afraid that you're not going to click or you're not going to find somebody, believe me, you will. There is so many different cultures, so many different people, so many places that you can go to find something specific that you want here at Western, that I found it marvelous. So just don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to just extend yourself a little bit more. I never imagined I was going to be a president either when they voted for me, and I was like, who gave y'all this idea? Who told y'all that I was going to be able to? And I am, which is impressive. You never know your limit until you have put yourself out there and realize, hey, I can actually do more, or I can do less. And doing less is not a bad thing. It sometimes is a very good thing, because you have to learn how to time management, learn how to be between a school, club, social life, your mental health, everything like together in a good balance. And you're always not going to have everything balanced, and that's okay too. It's okay to understand that nobody's perfect. Nobody's asking you to be perfect, and that you put yourself your own limits. And if you focus on just trying to break that barrier that you create, those walls that you create, there's going to be a lot more out there for you than you imagine.
Indeed. I think that is sound advice from both of you ladies. And I would just want to add, I think it's remarkable, and it's a testimony and testament to the work that Western Carolina has been doing, continues to do, of people in ICA, of our administration, of Dr. Nazario Colon, on that our Latinx student population is outpacing the regional demographics. I think that's a testament to the work and the success, and I'm sure it's going to continue to increase and continue to do so. And we need to always acknowledge, hey, when we get it right, or when we're doing it right, and we have evidence of that. And I think you two young ladies, as well as the numbers that I stated at the beginning of our podcast today, demonstrates. And I think that is wonderful and phenomenal.
There is, this semester, I don't know, I feel like in my case, I have seen way more Latinos in campus the semester pass, and that was amazing, just walking around and seeing eavesdropping over there, hearing two people are speaking Spanish, and you're like, you know, trying to see who are they. Do you want to join the club? I found that amazing. When I went to Brown, there was one of the workers, she's Latina as well, and she had a whole line of people just asking her order in Spanish. And I remember her being so happy about it. She's like, I have been here for who knows how long, and it's the first time that I had this many students ask me for food in Spanish, and that made her happy, and that made me happy because that made her happy. So there is definitely an increase of population there is happening, and I want it to keep happening. So come on to Western, everybody. But yeah, that made me really happy, just seeing the amount of people that keep coming into Western, and the Latino population is increasing as well here. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, I can definitely echo that. I mean, it's just such an amazing feeling to walk around campus and just to run into your friend and have a whole conversation in Spanish about your day. It's just something that makes me extremely happy, because I also feel like it's just kind of saying, wow, Western's doing something right. Like, it's opening up these opportunities to maybe people who never thought that they would ever be able to take an opportunity like this, not just to like better themselves, but like to better their families and their future families. And I think that's just something that ties so closely with like the first generation Latinx culture here. It's like you want to find these opportunities, and sometimes they seem so far away, but Western's providing that for like these students, and it just makes me really happy because it's like we're doing something right, and so let's keep doing that right thing.
There is one more thing that I would like to add to is that it's never late to embrace your heritage. I have had a bunch of people that come to me and like, hey, my mom is Latina or my dad is Latino or I'm Latino, but I just grew up my whole life in a predominant white school, so I never really learned much about it. I don't feel that connected to it. It's never late. You can always learn more. You can always come to different meetings of different organizations and learn a little bit more, not just about your own culture or your own heritage, but everything that comes to it. Because I always say that Latino culture is a fusion of cultures. We come from the whitest to the darkest. There is every type of cultures, colors, genders, everything. So it's a bunch of embracement between everybody and a bunch of different cultures that got together to make this beautiful one culture, if you want to say it like that. So just, it's never late to embrace it. You're not too white or you're not too from the U.S. or no, just come embrace your heritage. If you want to learn more, you can. There's all these opportunities for you to embrace it, and it's never too late. It's not that, I have to spend my whole life this way and now it feels like I can't change it. No, you can. Come learn more. And then the more you learn, the more you embrace it, I feel like it makes you feel better, connecting with your roots, connecting with what happened with your ancestors. I'm going to repeat that because antepasados, sorry. Again, being bilingual is very difficult. Sometimes I feel like I don't speak English, I don't speak Spanish either, and just
You're doing well. You're doing well.
But yeah, just expose yourself basically and try to learn more.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you once again to Dr. Nazario Colon. Thank you to the young ladies. They did a wonderful job, Stephanie and Andrea. We thank you all. We thank you for your contributions here at Western Carolina. And thank you all for joining us. Having a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to Diversity Dialogues, produced by Western Carolina University. For more content, visit go.wcu.edu/podcasts.